do it.
All right, Casey, fill us in on Casey's classics.
Okay, so this is an idea I had to talk about music from my childhood, which was the 80s. Yes, I'm old. I get it.
Narcissist.
Because you're old.
And I am a narcissist, yeah, especially when it comes to music. And the 80s is just, there's so much nostalgic, great, and garbage music that I still love, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And being from Minnesota, I can't help but choose one, you know, to start off the inaugural episode of Casey's Classics. I can't help but start with an icon of mine. One of my earliest mentors in music is Prince. And we got him up on the wall here for you viewers in the video audience.
With a little purple, of course.
With a little purple, yeah.
Of course.
So he's just like, you know, to me, he's such an icon. My first memory of like MTV and music videos and everything was the song and video for 1999, right?
Very cool.
Let's take a listen to it real quick.
Absolutely.
Everywhere. Trying to run from the distraction, you know I didn't even care. Say 2000 party over, oops, out of time. So tonight I'm gonna party like it's 1999.
All right, Casey. So tell us about this song. Tell us about context. Tell us about everything.
I mean, it's 1982, Prince's album, 1999. This is the title track off of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of his earliest successes. This was the first album that made it top 10 globally. So like it was sort of his, you know, introduction to the world outside of America.
Sweet.
You know, and it's about like, it's like sort of an anti-nuclear proliferation sort of song. Like he's partying like it's the end of the world, like a nuclear winter or something like that.
Because that was like generally the feeling that we had a conversation about this, and that was kind of generally the feeling at the time, was because the Cold War was at its height.
In the 80s is So
Cuban Missile Crisis.
well, 20 years earlier, but yeah. It's that was sort of definitely the political atmosphere that was going on, and Prince, you know, just like, gosh, you know, a guy who sold 150 million records in his time. That's one of the all-time greatest like numbers. He won an Oscar for, you know, I think it was Purple Rain or When Doves Cry.
Ah, yeah.
He's won countless Grammys. I mean, every accolade you can think of in music, he's like hit it, right?
Yeah.
And you know, the thing about him that's so important, like why I start with Prince in the 80s, because every 80s artist, I swear, was inspired by Prince.
Well, because Prince also produced a lot of music during the 80s.
Tons. He wrote a lot of music for other artists. Manic Monday by the Bangles. He wrote
that one tune by Cyndi Lauper. When You Were Mine.
So Nothing Compares to You.
Yep, that too.
When You Were Mine by Cyndi Lauper was a big hit. So Nothing Compares to You was covered by Sinead O'Connor in the 90s, which actually had more success than Prince's original.
Yep.
So like, I mean, he's a prolific songwriter. You know, he only played every instrument on his albums, like especially the first few. Like he did everything.
That's the most ridiculous part. Like he played guitar. Well, I mean, I think guitar was Prince's main instrument, and he played guitar on the song 777-9311 by Morris Day and the Time.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, so funky. How can you make power chords so funky?
I know. You look at his chords. It's a lot of 5 chords, like power chords, right?
Totally.
And he basically formed Morris Day and the Time. He was a silent member. I think his name was something Starred. The Star was his like sort of band name. It was like a pseudonym.
And that was the whole thing too, is like Morris Day and Prince competing for the stage and the attention.
Yeah,
like, that's
of course.
kind of a tangent.
And another big rivalry in the 80s was Prince and Michael Jackson.
Yes.
And there's this one famous concert that James Brown, who was an idol to both of them. James Brown was like Prince's first love, right?
Yeah.
Of music, right? And then Sly and the Family Stone. But James Brown, Michael Jackson's first love of music came from James Brown too, right? And Jackie Wilson. But James Brown was like huge. And
The man.
James Brown was playing a concert. I think it was in Vegas. And both of them were there. Prince and Michael Jackson were in the audience. And they knew it. And they had like their people going up to other people saying, hey, you should get him on stage. Let's all go on stage. And Prince, of course, you know, the enigmatic Prince who he was an introvert in so many ways, which is weird, right? And such an eclectic, androgynous too, like, you know, dressing like female, you know, all the time. And it's Prince. What? It's no big deal. It's Prince.
Game blouses.
Yeah. So like, but he's there with Michael Jackson, and Michael Jackson went up on stage first, and then Prince eventually worked his way up. And I think there's a stage malfunction. Prince knocked over like a prop or something. But then Prince went up there and like did this like cool. He did like the splits and did some cool stuff with the mic and and like this rivalry went on. But between Michael Jackson and Prince, and it was just great. Like, but everyone liked Prince, man. Everyone loved him all the way, and even up until when he had his resurgence in 2004 with the Musicology tour, winning Grammys again, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yep. He's just a freak of music. That's
he's a
all there is
freak.
to it.
And because, I've played with so many members of his bands, never him directly, but members around him.
Can you name one?
Bobby Z.
Yeah.
He was the drummer for The Revolution, right?
Right.
And I actually went to, it was like weird. I was hanging out with him and his wife at a wedding one time too. And they're really cool dudes. And he was like a producer and stuff still.
Yeah.
And really great dude. Not what you expect, like
Well, it's so great to hear that people are actually nice, even if they are
Yeah,
famous.
well,
Yeah.
the thing about Prince, like you expect a band member of the Revolution to be like all like Prince, like all mysterious and dressing strange,
Yep.
No, this guy was like totally normal. Bobby Z is totally normal. He's a cool dude too.
Gotta love it, man. Right?
But the thing about Prince that, is so crazy is that he's a multi-instrumentalist, right?
Yep.
And I've mentioned that, but playing guitar and respected by all the guitarists.
Yep.
Clapton, everyone loves Prince's guitar playing. They're like, oh my God, he's so good.
He's extremely proficient at basically everything.
Bass. I mean, my God, his slap bass. He's best friends with Larry Graham, who invented slap bass,
Yeah. What else?
Drums.
Horns too, right?
I don't know. I actually don't know too much about horns. I know that he played drums really well, like really well.
Yeah.
Like better than an average drummer.
Like Stevie kind of.
And then, of course, keys. I mean, he was an incredible keyboardist.
Oh my God.
Whether it was piano or synth stuff. Amazing.
Isn't it like...
And then finally, his main instrument, singing.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
right.
And like he had a 4-octave range of singing.
Share the talent.
It's like,
share it.
Man, 4 octaves is insane.
I know.
So
there's another person like that too.
There is a current day someone who's kind of like, doing that thing. That's Jacob Collier, right?
Of course.
And Jacob Collier is sort of like, I don't know. Well, here's an example. To give you a framework of him. I have a class where there's a bunch of students that are non-music people at all. It's a music appreciation class. And I always show them new music, some interesting stuff. And I show them a Jacob Collier Tiny Desk concert. And most of them were like, I didn't really like it.
Yeah.
And I was like thinking like, wow. So I had them ask themselves, so you're saying that great talent doesn't equal great music all the time, right?
And that certainly could be the case, especially even if you do know a lot of theory. And I think that's something we should talk about in the aftermath.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.